For this project, you're gonna need a piece of paper, a blank piece of paper, and you're gonna need a straight edge once again. And you're gonna need a pencil with an eraser. When we took notes on 2-point perspective, it was very important to remember that you have to draw very lightly. And hopefully through the practice, you saw that you needed to do a lot of erasing. As we start this project, I wanna remind everybody once again to please draw everything very lightly until the end of the project, when you start coloring and adding details. You're gonna be doing lots of erasing for this. So if the pace of this video is too fast, feel free to watch it over again and pause it wherever you need help. And just continue watching it as many times as you need, because it's very important that you know the foundations of drawing a building in 2-point perspective. And once you get a few of them down, then it should be pretty easy. So I'm gonna be going through the first part of this pretty fast because we've already taken notes on this once before. So this should not be your first time seeing these things that I'm about to start off with. With your paper in landscape orientation, near the middle of your paper, you're gonna take your straight edge and just draw a very light line, call it your horizon line. Remember, on the horizon line, we made 2 points. And this time you're gonna draw them very, very lightly because you don't really wanna see the points in your final project. So I'm gonna make tiny little dots, tiny soft dots. What I recommend is drawing a building in the middle of your paper first. So just draw above the horizon line. You always start off with the corner of the building that's gonna be closest to you. And it's always gonna be the middle of your building. So I'm just gonna draw a line that starts above the horizon line and comes below the horizon line like that. The next step is to connect the top of that line to both vanishing points, this way and that way. Remember, draw very lightly. You're gonna do the same thing for the bottom of that line, going to both vanishing points, 1 and 2 again. Remember, everything is drawn lightly. Remember, I said this first line that we drew is going to be the middle corner, or the corner closest to you in 2-point perspective. So if that's the middle, you need a line on the left side and a line on the right side. So that's what you're gonna do next. Line it up with that line at the beginning and just slide it over to the left. Draw a line touching that diagonal line from the top to the bottom. I'm gonna move it back over to the right this time and draw the right side of your building. Remember, as you're drawing the left side and the right side, everything to the left and right of those lines are going to be erased. And then if there's a horizon line going through the inside of your building, across the middle of your building, you would also erase that part of the horizon line. Remember, you're not erasing the entire horizon line, just the part that's going through your building. Next, you're gonna start on your next building. Every time you start a new building, you always start off with that first line that represents the corner of the building that's closest to you. So now that we finished one, you can see that this corner of the building is closest to us. It appears closer to us than the right side and the left side. So anytime you start a new building, you always do this first line right here, which represents the corner of the building closest to you. So I'm gonna do one on the left side this time. And then you connect the top of it to the both the vanishing points. And remember, this time, if it hits any part of another building, you can stop right away. So even though I line it up all the way over here, from the top all the way to the other vanishing point, once it touches my other building, I can stop. I don't need to draw it all the way. So I can stop right there. I can stop. And I'm gonna do the same thing for the bottom of my building. When it touches the building right there. Then once again, after I draw the lines to the vanishing points, I'll pick the left side of my building. So I'll line it up with that first line, slide it over to the left, how far left I want to, that's up to you. And then I can decide how far right I want to line up my building, or I can have it completely going behind this building. I'm gonna leave it behind this building right now. So everything to the left of this line, I will erase that part of the diagonal line. I will do the same thing on the bottom half. I see a horizon line going through my building right here, so I'm going to erase this line. Now I'm going to make a building on the right side. So once again, you always start off with the corner of the building that's closest to you. So start above the horizon line, go below the horizon line. Next, I'm going to connect the top to the 2 vanishing points with my ruler or straight edge. My vanishing point. Notice it's every building that I'm adding to this picture has the same 2 vanishing points. You cannot make new vanishing points for each building. These are the only 2 points you're using for the entire project. So from the bottom line, I'm going to go to the 2 points again. And remember, as it hits another building, you can stop right away. And then you choose the left side of the building. This time, I'm not gonna have it hiding behind my first building. So I'm actually gonna choose the left side a little bit before I get to the other building. So I'm gonna put it there and move it over to the left, sorry, and draw the left end of my building. I'm immediately going to go ahead and erase the part of the building that I don't need anymore right here, just so I can show you that now I have a building that's not touching that first building. And then I wanna choose the right side. Move it over to the right, draw my line, vertical line, and erase the part of the line to the right of the right side of my building. And once again, I see a horizon line going through this building, so I'll erase it. That's the beginning of your cityscape in 2-point perspective. For this project, you're only gonna need these 3 buildings, and I just want you to add details after that. So part 1 is making the beginnings of 3 buildings. That's the end of step 1. For step 2, we're going to be adding details to the buildings that we did in step 1. So what's important is that we always keep these 2 points in mind anytime we're adding details too. For this part of the project, because we're short on classes this year in time, I'm not going to have you use a ruler for this step. But what I want you to do is I want you to keep in mind that you're drawing things towards the vanishing points. At least they're in the direction of those vanishing points. So let's say I wanted to add windows. So I'm going to demonstrate on this right here. Notice how these lines that come out of the middle corner go out like this towards the vanishing points. They go towards and disappear to those vanishing points. When you're making windows and doors, it's very important to keep those vanishing points in mind. So I'm going to show you how to add windows and doors on each side of this building so you can see. So the first thing is you want to run it parallel. Parallel means if they ran side by side, it would never touch. So this line right here, the first line that we drew for that building, I'm just going to make a little dashed line like this going down that's parallel to this line. And then I'm going to draw the top of the window right here that goes parallel to this side. And then I'll go down. This is parallel to this line, and then this right here, the bottom of my window, is parallel to that line again. And it doesn't have to be perfect because we're not using rulers this time, just because we don't have that much time on this project. And I'm going to continue doing this as I go down the building, adding more windows to my project. And you'll notice that the windows seem to be getting smaller and smaller as they get to the side of the building. They're vanishing along towards the vanishing point, like that. Now that's one way you can do it. You can do it individual windows that way in the same row. A shortcut to this is you can just do your parallel line to that first corner and then draw this line all the way parallel to this line right here, and do the same thing on the bottom half. And then you can just add some vertical lines in there like this. Leave a little space between the windows. And then you can, if you want to separate the windows, you can just erase that little space between the windows. I'll do this right here. And I'll just delete that. Add another little line here so I can delete that part. So that's a little shortcut if you want to add windows. Now, due to the time, I'm not going to add that many details to it, but that's just how you keep in mind how to keep your windows in 2-point perspective also. You would do the same thing for these buildings right here. So I'm just gonna add details to the top of these two buildings, and I'm gonna add a door. Actually, I'll add a door next to this building. So for a door, you would draw a parallel line down here, wherever you want your door. This line is parallel to this line. And then this one is parallel to this line down here. And now this will be a vertical line going down. That's just a simple basic entryway for a building. If you want to put a double door, you can just add a line right here. And then you can add other details to it. I'll do the same thing on the side right here. This line is parallel to this line. And these lines just go straight up and down. And if you want to make it a double door, just add another vertical line. You're going to continue adding details to these buildings in part 2. Now part 2, because you're adding so many details, it's going to take you a few weeks to do that. Remember, each class is only 30 minutes long, so don't spend a long time on each part. This part will take multiple weeks, and you don't have to do it in one sitting. So right now, I'm just going to speed through this, but remember, you're going to have a few weeks to add details to this. When you're adding details to your cityscape, you don't have to make everything in 2-point perspective, but it is important that you do the decorations on the building in 2-point perspective, like the windows and the door. When you're finished with that, you can add whatever else you want to the rest of your picture to make it look like a cityscape, like the sky and the ground, whatever you want to add to it. Does not have to all be in 2-point perspective, okay? Notice right here, I'm putting a tree in my picture, so it will cover up part of the building. So I can then erase part of the building and whatever it's covering up, like the horizon line right there. So if you want to add color, feel free to do that, but it's not a requirement for this project. The main purpose of this project is learning how to draw in 2-point perspective. So we're going to be spending about 3 to 4 class periods on this right here. So if you get to coloring and you want to, feel free to do that, but don't feel any pressure to do that if you don't want to.